No, you can't start, you got a public comment first.
Public comment. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, public. We'll move on.
Lisa might have got some.
Leo, you got anything else to say?
About the fact that the meeting is going to be over by 6:15?
Hopefully. Opening the city council of Tuesday, April 12th. Tom, could you please report on the closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and public. Council did meet in closed session at 5 p.m. this evening to receive an update from city staff on succession planning, as well as an update on litigation options relative to the JKB versus City of Ripon matter. Staff was given direction, but no further reportable action was taken.
Thank you. At this time, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. Mike.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can please stay standing for the innovation?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brett and I'm from Calvary, and we're going to have a word of prayer. So let's come to the Lord. Father, thank you for this city council and thank you for endowing them with the gifts of wisdom, Lord. And we just pray that you would continue to give them guidance and understanding, and truly, Lord, that you'd help them in the matters of the town to govern well, righteously, and with honor. And so, Father, for all the matters at hand today, help them, Lord, to discern and to decide. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gary Barton,
Present.
Daniel DeGraff,
Here.
Leo Zuber,
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Verstucia,
Present.
Mayor Dean Euchre.
Here. The approval of the minutes from March 8th.
Public discussion.
Oh. Is there anybody out there?
Yeah, we got
I
audience.
must have public discussion. Sorry, I slipped up. Anybody want to discuss anything that is not on the agenda? Seeing nobody, we'll move on. Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the regular meeting of March 8th and the workshop of March 31st.
Second.
Where-
Vote being,
I know.
There it is.
Be careful. There we go. I hit it. Oh, there it goes. Passes 5-0. And we'll then move on to the approval of the agenda.
We ask if anybody wants to
Anybody
pull anything.
gonna pull anything or not? Or we already,
Yes. You need 1.2G and 1.2G. I need to step out for take that separately. And then 1.4C.
What, 1.4?
C.
okay, so with that, then can we get approval on the
I'll
balance?
move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
That passes. It doesn't show.
Good there on the vote.
Okay, so you want to step out?
No, the rest of the consent calendar is amended. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, Leo. Good, Leo.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And can we take the other one to talk about first, 1.4C, talk about that first and then.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So 1.4C is a claim regarding basketball hoops, and reason I wanted to talk about it is it seemed to me that there may have been some fault, maybe of both sides, while we maybe the rules would indicate that we should not have, or that the trash can should not have been underneath the basketball hoop, and the basketball hoop shouldn't have been in the road to begin with. But I feel like at the same time, if that's the case, our policy then should be that we should have left a note or done. And I think, James, if you would ask you about what our policy maybe actually is in the event that there's obstruction or if the trash can's, not accessible, how we would do that from a policy standpoint.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit on that. Yeah, our drivers, it's kind of a judgment call on our drivers, right? So we do tell people to keep things 5 feet away from any obstructions, or tell them to keep their cans 5 feet away from any obstructions. If the driver feels that it is within that range, typically they will stop. They would tag that can and either not dump it or tag that can, move it to the side, do a courtesy dump. And if it becomes a regular routine problem, then they would just tag it and move on, not dump the can. So.
And I mean, for me, I guess reading, kind of get an understanding of what happened, it seemed to me that maybe we should consider reimbursing at least a portion of it, given the fact that if it was in the way, for instance, if there was a car parked too close to, say a neighbor pulled up and parked his car next to the trash can, we wouldn't just grab the trash can and set it back down in the car. I mean, I think maybe the value is part of the issue. Like, to me, it just makes sense that we would recommend some reimbursement, if not all the reimbursement for this item.
So I'm inclined to agree with Councilman DeGraff, and I did call Mr. Gill. He is here this evening, and he can provide his perspective on this if council is interested in hearing that.
Is he here?
He is here.
I don't have a problem with it. I didn't really think that there, by what I read, that there was really a
You go to the
problem.
podium over here.
Cheers, Steve. Shout out Patty.
Please give us your name and address.
Okay, first name Abhijit Gill, address 1641 Katy Lane, Ripon. First of all, I want to say thank you guys for giving me a chance to tell my side of the story. I believe in going to chain of command first before going to a third party, so that's why I came to you guys. I think this incident was totally avoidable. If he didn't feel safe, he should have never touched it or tagged it. That hoop's been there for 2.5 years, and it's on the sidewalk. And I work for DOD, so I work in transportation. So I know it's not an easy job. We always tell our drivers, hey, if you don't see any, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel safe, don't touch it, call dispatch. He didn't do that. And after that, he knocked it down and put it back, drove off like nothing happened. And luckily it was all caught on the camera. And I mean, and I think it was totally avoidable because mishaps do happen. And we tell our employees, don't have any mishaps, be safe, because we don't want to deal with safety. We don't want to deal with OSHA. So whatever it is, just report it. And I feel you guys would do the right thing because we've been here for 2.5 years. We love the city. We love the staff here. And I'm a volunteer coach for the city for flag football, for T-ball. And I wanted to say, thank you.
Hold on, I got a question. So your hoop was on the sidewalk
Yes, which
where
is,
it's allowed to be legally, correct?
Not really.
No,
I thought they were allowed on the sidewalk, not in the street.
not if it's obstructing the pedestrian path of travel.
Okay.
it wasn't blocking anything. It was next to a street light, so there's no traffic there. Hoop was right here, then it's a sidewalk, then it's my yard.
So he had enough room to get the garbage can. When he came down, he hit it.
Yes, when he was putting it down, he knocked it down.
Hmm. I see him on the sidewalk all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, that's-
I'm not making it right.
Basketball
I'm
hoops.
just saying I see him.
No, I mean, it doesn't, my point was too, that there's maybe fault in both sides. I think that you see basketball hoops everywhere, and most people probably don't even know that there's a code that says you're not supposed to have a basketball hoop in the street. But in regardless, to me, as my thought was, if you're driving, I get it, people make mistakes, or, you don't know exactly where it's gonna come down and, maybe it was close, but I feel like if it's close, then, we have the, it's on us to not make it close and not just destroy someone's property. I don't know, regardless of what it is. We shouldn't have picked it up, I guess, is, I think there's, you look at it both ways, but I just figured we shouldn't have picked it up given this, if there was an obstruction.
Can I ask a question? This says the can was put under the hoop. Is what this says. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what it says.
It was away from the hoop. It wasn't right underneath it. I don't know if you guys seen the pictures or the videos.
We did. Oh, I didn't see the video.
We've seen
Open
pictures.
up
I
can
haven't
of
seen the
worms.
video.
Yeah, our memo says it was under the hoop. That's
No,
what
it
kind of
was-
told me that, why would you put it under? Okay, well,
It wasn't.
that's different for me then.
So one question I had, Mr. Gill, is from the photos, it looked like the hoop was repairable. In other words, if you purchased, and I'm just speculating, a new plexiglass backboard with a hoop attached, that could be reattached to the structure that supports that. Is that correct?
I don't think so, because it was knocked down and drug a couple feet, so the springs broke, the rims broken, and I'm not that handy. I don't think I can fix it, but if you guys want to send somebody out to fix it. But it might be cheaper replacing it than,
I'm not trying to take sides one way or the other, but legally, Tom, can you answer this question?
Position tonight of affirming or not the findings of our adjuster. These claims are routinely evaluated by our risk management folks. And in this case, the report is very clear. They assign responsibility to the homeowner and not to the city. And absent that, the purpose for the council denying claims of this nature is to set a shorter statute of limitations for a legal challenge and making it easier for both parties to quickly get to resolution on these cases. So denying the claim doesn't mean that doesn't mean that at the end of the process, the homeowner has no relief available. They do. And that's why these matters are usually pretty routinely handled by way of denial, but staff will go with the direction of the council.
I guess I'll just reiterate. I mean, I just feel like if it was close enough to where it could have hit somebody's property, regardless of whether it was a hoop that was not supposed to be there or not, we should have just tagged it and pick it up next week. That would be,
I just have to hear, of course, speak for the driver. For the,
Yeah, I mean-
the operator, they have a schedule to maintain, they have decisions to make. And in a situation where can is put under a hoop that should be in the public right away to begin with. I personally don't see the difference between this and a number of other cases that have come before the council claims that have been denied, but that doesn't mean the council can't take it into their own consideration.
I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. First, I have a concern about the way this discussion is headed. Because we're being asked to potentially being asked to make a decision based on partial information. And I don't like to do that. So my question is, if we deny it, the conversation does not necessarily stop.
Correct.
That the conversation can continue, the facts can be gathered, and then what, another recommendation would come back to the council for resolution?
Yeah, if you want to send it back to the council or it's back to staff for that purpose, we can do that.
Then that's my motion.
And I agree with that. I was gonna say, why don't we have staff work with Mr. Gill and figure out what's appropriate and come back and put it on a consent calendar if he even needs to come back to us.
Yep.
I fully agree. Second time.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a good idea. Talk to all the parties entitled and see where we go with it.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
Yeah, so I mean, what other information you guys are seeking? I sent
Well,
everything.
That's will be between you and staff they're being directed to meet with you and bring back a recommended resolution,
Okay,
rather than have pictures and all this stuff going on tonight and 5 people who don't know a lot we're going to be asked to ratify whatever they come up with. You will have the ability to either agree or disagree, and then we go from there.
okay,
That's all.
all right,
It's not stopped.
okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you.
Shouldn't take a lot of your time, though. I mean,
You got a motion in a second.
Well, as soon as my board lights up,
Relax.
there it is.
I can only move.
Oops, you went
got
too
canceled.
fast. We just got
Okay.
canceled.
I didn't do that.
no, okay.
There we go.
Okay,
You're not even gonna tell us what it is.
yeah. Was that 1.47?
We will be
1.2
going,
G.
so just for, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, so for purposes of completing the last item, we will then, as staff, be going back and meeting, but we will be filing whatever appropriate paperwork we need to do to make sure that the statute of limitations remains in as directed.
And,
Yeah.
So,
I think that where you weren't, maybe we want to hear from the driver.
Well, but
that'll be done at the staff level.
We'll let them know.
Their
all that stuff.
responsibility is to meet with Mr. Gill, arrive at a recommendation and bring it back to us.
All right.
Then we know who to ask questions.
Right.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
fine. That's good. Okay, so 1.2 G,
Correct.
right? Which one is-
Which one was that?
That's the one with Provost and Pritchard Consulting Group that Dan used to work for, and he was within a
Oh.
year, so he was recommended that he not be part of. it. So
I'll
that
move
we
to approve
approve.
1.2G.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice second.
And
Okay, Danny.
you could abstain.
No, we can't. He's
You
not
can't
supposed to
even
be
do
here.
that. Oh,
Can't be within a year.
okay, so,
Wait, something locked up.
I hit
Lincoln,
second.
because I didn't move.
No, it's never went past mover.
Leo.
Not 11 here.
No, you don't.
has it moved on yet?
It's got moved and seconded, but no vote.
Well, I hit yes. Maybe I need to
No,
get,
hold on. They're working. on it.
No, it says, his says yes.
Mine's Lincoln. Could be a long night.
Theirs say yes, but mine still says mover.
over.
Well, mine says second,
Hit
You guys
it.
are frozen.
and I hit second.
Yes.
We're gonna have to start over, sorry.
You're gonna have to leave again.
Why don't you take a vote?
We have a vote of 4 with Daniel abstaining, but can you just hit one of your buttons just to move us along?
Me?
Yes.
No.
We'll fix it in a minute.
Now it says 3-1.
I think
You
that
voted no.
Because you voted no.
I abstained.
You
3-1.
abstained.
I hit it.
You hit abstain?
Somebody-
Did you,
I hit it to get it to
did
move.
you used to work for him?
Okay, resolutions. The resolution of the city council of the Ripon opposing the Taxpayer Protector and Government Accountability Act. Do they have anything to say? Kevin?
I could open up this item. This is something that the city council, I believe, briefly talked about at the March meeting. The, well, referred to as the Government Accountability Act was something that the League of Cities or Cal Cities has provided some information to the city council. I think was on the last agenda, and I sent it again recently to the council. Councilmember Barton and I did get an opportunity to talk to Nico from League of Cities, who I believe is on the Zoom right now, with Steve Qualls as well, or just Nico.
Perfect.
Hi, Nico. So I did summarize that conversation and I could briefly go through it right now too, on some of the concerns that this government accountability act would have on the city of Ripon and how we do business. Generally, it does restrict local government's ability to adopt new taxes and fees, as well as updating existing ones. Some of the specific concerns would be related to franchise fee revenue. The proposal would require the city to defend the amount that we collect through franchise fees and show justifications for those amounts. AB 1600 fee revenue. This is revenue that we receive to mitigate the impacts of development on the city and expand infrastructure and such that we need to do that. We do a nexus study right now, but that nexus study with this act would require evidence that shows minimal cost requirements are met. And then with sales tax measures, it prohibits the use of advisory committees to monitor the use of the revenue. These committees, I think a lot of people believe have been helpful in getting different measures passed because it provides some sort of oversight. Well, the act now would prohibit those committees, making it harder to advance those sales tax measures. The other thing is any new sales tax measure now would have a defined number of years that would be in place. Those are easy for capital type, of sales tax measures that are related to capital, like the Measure K half-cent sales tax measure. Where it gets more difficult is if you're doing a sales tax measure that's related to staffing and you're adding staff, because at some point when that goes away, those staff positions would also go away. So that's where it would get really challenging, if we were trying to go down that road and bridge a gap related to staffing with a sales tax measure. So with that, I'm not an expert on this. We have really been relying on the League of California Cities to provide us this information, and what's before council, at least from staff's recommendation, is that the city council approve the resolution opposing this. But obviously, it's a council direction, and I know I believe Councilmember Barton has asked members of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association to be here as well, if the council is interested in hearing from them.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So I think now would be, unless there are questions, an appropriate time for Nico from the California League of Cities to speak to us on this matter.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for the invitation. Nicholas Roma on behalf of the League of California Cities. I'm available to you to answer questions. Your city manager did a great job of outlining.
Nico, can you hold on for a minute? Because your volume isn't coming through. It's either on your end or on our end. Are you up as high as you can go? Maybe you can get closer to your mic, maybe, Nico.
Okay. Council, is this much better?
A little bit. That's going to be tough.
Can you do sign language?
All clear
Yeah.
on my end.
Nico, if you want to try again, I think it's a little bit better now.
Hey, good evening. Is that much better?
Speak loudly.
Oh, good evening, council. Thanks for having me. Nick Rowe on behalf of the League of California Cities. I'm available to answer questions for you. I'm happy to go through and outline some of the provisions of the proposition that are of concerns to cities. Primarily, I'll leave you with a couple of points here today. As it relates to your fees and charges, except for your licensing and regulatory fees, this new ballot measure really restricts your ability to adjust your fees year over year. Creating a new evidentiary plan, one that we believe is going to be very difficult for city councils to do. currently you operate under a reasonableness standard. You take a look, your city council, your city staff takes a look at how much should be charged for the cost of services, and provides a reasonable fee schedule in which you all also deliberate and agree to throughout your process. This new measure creates two new high obstacles for you to provide services to your residents. One, it lowers the amount that you're able to charge, not to the amount that you want to charge or that is needed for your community, but the amount that outside folks believe is the lowest amount that you should charge. And in addition, it requires you to above reasonable estimates, it requires you to defend those fee amounts to a point where a court must rule in your favor that the amount that you're charging is far more likely to be correct than not. And that's a really high standard, an evidentiary standard that can be much more difficult to meet, just short of beyond reasonable doubt, which is something that we face largely in the criminal proceedings. And so we really providing you this information to show you that this could really restrict your ability to lead in the future, to make decisions for your city going forward, things that you have to do year over year. We think that the power should be with all of you to decide how high your fees are adjusted or how much lower they should be adjusted without all these additional barriers where you'll be facing additional litigation throughout the years. We believe in your leadership locally, and that's what we're here to protect. I'm happy to answer specific questions. I'm available for that. Thank you so much for having me.
Go ahead.
Nico, I could barely hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I guess the first couple of questions that come to mind is, you certainly don't want to just allow anybody to raise taxes anytime that they just well please. I mean, I'm against tax. I mean, it's a waste of money in most cases. One of the questions that I have though, because you had brought it up about the fact that you're limited to what you can actually charge. So let's say, for an example, we have a study done to do something. And the study says we need to collect X. Now, Rippon's a little different than some other cities that'll probably just steal whatever they can from taxpayers. We're pretty good at trying to just get what we need to get. So the question I have is, let's say that we decide based on a study and based on what we have brought to us that we need to raise some fee by some dollar amount to cover our costs, and we can justify that and put it. You're saying some outside authority is going to say, yeah, we don't care what your real costs are. We think it ought to be X minus something, and that's what you get. And then somebody's going to come down and penalize us for covering our costs.
Certainly, a taxpayer or a fee payer could sue the city if it believes that you are not meeting, that the fee is not set at the most minimum cost that you should charge for that. And that will be based on the opinion of the fee payer or taxpayer. And the city would have to defend of that to a significant degree. Where currently you're doing your study, you're doing your due diligence, and you believe you're based on your local wisdom of how much fee should be set at. Currently, cities are quite able to protect and defend its decisions. We're worried about that, the ability to defend its decision.
Well, I think I should pay $1 a gallon for gas, and that's not going to work. Well, it includes taxes in there.
Anybody else have any questions?
I guess I'd just be curious to see the other side of it. And for reference, so I work all the time with Prop 218 as a consultant for lots of districts. And part of the struggle that I have, I think the intent, particularly when you have a name such as the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, you think that, okay, this is going to stop the state of California from continuing to hammer us with more taxes. But what it also, at least what my experience with Prop 218 does, is the smallest districts, like our fire district that's going through that right now. These water districts that are really struggling to, come up with funds to be able to build infrastructure. They're the ones that have the hardest time getting the money that they need to be able to operate. So I see kind of both sides of it. At the same time, where I'd say, yeah, let's make it almost as hard as possible to just raise whatever taxes you want. It's also challenging, and I would hate to see a community like ours and a council like ours and staff have to sit here and struggle even harder when we do a good job of managing money and not going after more money than we need and not just having slush funds. So I would just, love to hear the other side and see what you have to say in response to that.
Thank you. I think it's on, although sometimes I certainly don't need it. I want to thank the council first. I understand this measure was brought forward in March and you made the wise decision to table it and hear both perspectives. So first, let me thank you for doing your due diligence for your city and your constituents and hearing both sides of the argument. There's a lot of discussion about fees. That's about 5% of the measure. I'd like to spend the first minute telling you what the measure actually does. And there's 4 main provisions to this measure. The first provision to this measure and the main spirit of this measure, if you leave tonight knowing any one thing about what this measure will do when voters approve it in November. And let me assure you.
If I can interrupt you, can you give us your name? And
oh, yes, certainly. Tino Rossi, I'm with the official campaign in support of the Taxpayer Protection Act. It's a diverse coalition of taxpayers, veterans, homeowners, social justice organizations, small business owners, and local electeds. You mentioned Howard Jarvis. They are one of our co-chairs. They joined the California Business Roundtable, the California Taxpayers Association, and California Chamber of Commerce in supporting this measure. Again, the spirit of this bill is to give voters the final say on how all taxes are increased. The first way it does that is it would require final voter approval on all new taxes passed by the California State Legislature. There's no doubt in this state there's a cost of living crisis. In the last 2 years alone, $333 billion in new taxes have been levied on California taxpayers, despite a $43 billion increase. Currently, any tax approved by the legislature, Assembly 2/3, Senate 2/3, and a signature of the governor goes into effect. Under this measure, that would have to go to the voters for final approval of a majority vote. That's the first thing this measure does. The second is it restores the 2/3 threshold requirement for local special tax increases. I use the word restore because that was the law for 40 years under Proposition 13, a voter approved tax threshold. And then the Upland decision, of course, said if it was citizen gathered. And what's ironic about that specific provision is, in fact, in 2018, during that court case, the League of Cities sided with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association in saying that they believed that citizen gathered initiatives should also have to meet the 2/3 threshold. That's listed in their amicus brief. The third thing this measure does is it increases transparency for taxpayers. It would require that all tax increases placed on the ballot clearly designate the use, the rate, and the duration of the tax increase. So if it's a half-cent sales tax increase that's going to fund public safety for 30 years, it just has to say that. There's some discussion that our measure somehow limits taxes in perpetuity. That's absolutely not true. And I encourage everyone to read the initiative. You can have a tax to hire staff in perpetuity. There's nothing in this measure that restricts ongoing tax increases so long as when voters go to the ballot, the ballot says this tax increase is in perpetuity. There's no problem with that at all. We just want voters to know what they're voting on. The council member's comment is very well taken. You are good stewards of your taxpayer dollars. This measure isn't meant for you. And the advisory committee discussion came up. What taxpayers are frustrated by in California is not that taxes are being raised all the time. They don't mind fixing their roads, improving their schools, addressing homelessness. The issue they have is they're paying the highest state income and gas taxes in the nation, and they're driving on bad roads, their public safety is underfunded, and their school systems are failing. The issue is so oftentimes their promised tax dollars are going to be spent somewhere and they're not spent in that place. We're just asking for some more transparency and some more accountability. There's certainly some discussions around fees and the minimum charge amount. Mr. Council Member, your comment is well taken. If you do a study and you have justification that you use the minimum amount charged, that would absolutely hold up against a taxpayer suit. You have justification, you have research, you have backing that that's the minimum amount. We think that having a high threshold for proving you're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars is probably good public policy for the state of California to embrace. So we're certainly here to ask that you do not adopt this resolution. I want to make one more thing clear. This measure does not impact current revenue streams. There is no retroactive provision in this measure that would say any tax increase you've already passed or that's in place would be eliminated by this measure. The only look back provision in this measure is for any tax increase passed after January 1st, 2022. We did that because we were a little nervous that the opposition would see how popular our measure is with voters and try and jam as many tax increases through this year before the measure passes. One final comment, and it goes to Mr. DeGraff's statement. We recognize that there are critical needs that need to be addressed in our communities, and there are governing bodies that are tasked with addressing that. The reason it's become so hard to get voters to approve tax increases is because they've been misled time and time again about where the funds are going for fire districts, water districts, special districts. When we bring thoughtful policy proposals, we raise the revenue and we apply it where it's promised. You have no problem getting your voters to approve new revenues to address critical problems. The problem is when we abuse that trust. So we're here to answer any questions, to say thank you for allowing us to be part of the dialogue. And we certainly hope you'll see the incredible value in rewarding taxpayers for their trust in representative government and support this measure, let alone choose not to oppose it.
I have a question. I noticed you call him DeGraff, but you can't pronounce my last name, right?
That's exactly what it was. I went, the council member, Mr. Yeah, so that was exactly it.
Here's a question I have. This governor has taken what the voters have said to do and just disregarded it, thrown it out, and nobody's done anything about it. Is there any kind of penalties in there, like he gets kicked out of office if he tries to override it?
Certainly, I don't have any statement on what would the
I mean, seriously, is there? I mean,
well, there
what
is,
the
sir,
penalty
because
or
this
what?
measure requires that any tax increase signed by the governor go to the ballot for final voter approval, and our measure dictates that every tax measure has to say the use, the rate, and the duration. Any measure he approves and that is then ratified by voters at the ballot box, there is citizen recourse to sue the government and to hold them accountable should those dollars be diverted.
And if it doesn't pass, it fails.
And if it doesn't pass, it fails. It's a direct referendum process. That's correct.
I don't have a question, but I have a concern.
Certainly.
My concern is you started your presentation with examples at the state level. I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, sir.
But this thing, the way it's written, it comes down to the local level. And so now we're stuck with your attitude about taxes and stuff at the state level. And we have to deal with all this new process and procedure for something that 4,000 voters in the city of Ripon that we can probably talk to personally. We have to live with all that. That's my concern. It is a big concern.
May I address it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't change the requirement for general tax increases. So general tax increases would still be 50%. And any non-special tax increase, obviously general would be 50%. And special tax increases for 45 plus years, even in the city of Ripon, were required to receive a 2/3 voter designation. It was only under the Upland decision. And even so, sir, even if this measure does not pass, and this governing body puts a measure directly on the ballot, that will require a 2/3 vote. The only special tax increase currently that requires a majority vote is citizen-placed initiatives on the ballot. So if they go through the signature gathering process and put it on the ballot, it's majority. If you folks put a measure on the ballot, that's a local special tax increase, it requires a 2/3 vote threshold.
I got it. My only reaction is I'm going to vote for this resolution because I think you need to go back and rewrite this damn thing so that it's very clear that you're taking on state level problems and leave the local people alone.
Well taken, sir.
Anybody else got any questions for him? You want to rebuttal the League of California Cities? I can't remember your name, sir.
Nico.
Nico?
No, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to answer additional questions.
You're on mute.
No, sir.
It's not a
Happy to
bad
answer
thing.
additional questions. Thank you so much.
You got nothing to say?
Yeah. You don't want, but okay, so let's move on.
I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the resolution for the reason that I said. This thing is too broad and has too many things built into it that are going to make the 5 of us miserable over the next few years. I don't oppose the things that they're trying to do at the state level. I have a real problem with the fingers that are going to get moved into Ripon.
Yeah, I heard nothing specific from the League of Cities that indicated that there is a long-term concern for a community like Ripon who responsibly manages their city budget, has appropriate taxing in place that will not be impacted at all by this measure, that has a citizenry that recognizes when new revenue is needed. The threshold of 2/3 is one that I thought was a wonderful thing when passed under Prop 13. As was pointed out, this will only impact those that are a citizen-led vote for a special tax. The fact is, and yes, you can say it is a state issue, but everyone in this room pays those state taxes. California is the most taxed state in the country. We have the highest income tax. We have the highest sales tax. We have the highest gas tax. We have one of the highest property taxes by virtue of the value of the property in the state. And to suggest that somehow the local government is not getting enough, you know what? There are reasonable arguments to be made for that, because the state of California is the one that consistently raids counties and cities and deprives them of what I believe is their due revenue. But again, thankfully, we have a city and a staff that really responsibly manages the revenue that we do have. I strongly oppose this resolution. This is a measure that I believe is very much needed for the state of California, because we have to begin turning the spigot off for the folks in Sacramento that understand absolutely no limitations to the power that they attempt to exert over us every day.
At this point, we don't have a second to the motion. So if we could get a second to the motion and then have discussion following that, that would be better.
I thought that was.
Thank you. No worries.
Nope. No.
That was the opposite of the
That was
second.
an anti-second.
Oh, okay.
So we can have a second for purposes of discussion, or you can not have a second and entertain another motion.
Ask if anybody wants to second it. If they don't, then call for another motion.
Can I second it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Now
Call for a
you're
vote.
gonna call for further discussion at this point.
Any more
Well,
discussion?
can I say something? Looks like somebody wants to chat. Do you have somebody in the chat box? Okay.
I just have one other thing. I'm not disagreeing with anything that Mr. Barton has said. Problem is, Mr. Barton has identified problem after problem after problem at the state level. I do not have a problem with trying to change that. There are parts of this thing that we're going to have to deal with that I don't think we should have to deal with as a city. We are what we are because of the way we operate. This is going to make us change some of the things that we do. I will be the first one to get in line and support this thing if it's clarified as to where the line is drawn to keep it out of cities. We're not the state. We're better than the state in a lot of places. And I don't want people coming in here and screwing us up. That's why I'm opposing the resolution. I'm supporting the resolution, opposing the measure.
So we have a motion and a second.
Oh, I gotta do that. Huh? Do we get to do it on this? Oh.
Well, go
I
ahead.
was gonna ask one.
Are you-
Go ahead.
No, I just want to ask a question. So Mr. Zuber indicated about revising the resolution. I mean, and what you're going to actually have done. Is that possible to do?
No, sir. The state initiative process only allows amendments within 30 days of submitting. We are on the goal line. features. And again, Mr. Zuber's points are well taken. Unfortunately, when we're running a statewide measure, if every city were like Ripon, we wouldn't need this. But there are many local governments across the state who use bait and switch tactics to raise revenue and then not spend them where they're promised. So we're trying to address a widespread need that we see across the state. And fortunately, Ripon is not one of those cities, but there are many, many bad actors across the state who are abusing the taxpayers' trust. So we're hopeful a statewide solution to this issue will bring a Ripon attitude to the state of California. That's our hope.
Well, and the biggest abuser is the state.
I move.
You got a second, Dean?
Sorry.
Then the other three can vote.
So it fails.
You don't have the next one, no.
And
Do we need that? So Tom, you mentioned it's not necessary for there to be another resolution, is there? In other words, to support this this measure?
I don't.
We don't
means we don't.
Just dies.
Defeat means we didn't support.
We didn't support the
but we did not
negative resolution, I guess,
support
as
it.
well. Okay.
We actually did.
I think at this point,
In a roundabout way?
the direction
Okay,
of the council
that's
is clear at this point, so.
All right. With that,
If I can screenshot the defeat and the yes on here.
reports, chief.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council, members of the public, I just have one item. On April 21st at 3 p.m., we'll be swearing in our number 9 dispatcher, Alejandro Arias. Will be sworn in that day, and we welcome everybody here to be present. Thank you.
How many total will we have when you're done?
12.
Okay. What are those dates again?
The swearing in will be taking place in the dispatch center.
When?
The 21st at 3 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job. James?
Yes, real quick, Honorable City Council, Mr. Mayor. Our water conservation numbers for March, we were at basically 0%. We matched our 2013 numbers. We had a very, very dry month, hardly any rain. And we were at a 53% increase over last year. So
How much?
53%
Increase?
from last year's numbers. Just based on what kind of weather you're getting, and it was a very dry year. Last year wasn't so much in March specifically. So, right.
Sarah?
Good evening. Just a quick update on the 2 projects in construction, Stockton Avenue. You guys have probably noticed it's finally moving along. All the underground is pretty much complete. Curb and gutter construction is complete. Roadway grading has started, and hopefully by the end of April, you guys will see the papers starting on Stockton Avenue. So that's exciting.
That road's better now, dirt and gravel, than it's ever been in 20 years. I
You can actually drive a
drove.
truck on it.
Yes, I can drive my lowrider truck on that thing without dragging the bottom and hitting bumps. That's wonderful. Leave it like
Yeah.
it is.
We'll keep going to make it
Sorry.
better. And then well 19, the underground work is complete. Just kind of moving along with additional items on that project, and that's anticipated to be done in August of this year.
Okay. I have one question. Is there a way we can get some water on Stockton Avenue on the weekends? I went down there Sunday afternoon and there were some trucks going through there and you couldn't see anything.
The dust.
Yeah, it's bad. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I've been talking to the contractor, kind of asking them to do that, but I will for sure check in with them again.
Because a spray bottle takes too long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd hate to be a business on the east side of Stockton that Sunday afternoon. I mean, they were just covered.
Oh, yeah, especially when the wind blows.
Thank you.
Unless your
Yeah.
business was a car wash, Leo, and then you'd be very excited.
No, because nobody's gonna take it in there because they know by the time they drive out, they're gonna have to go back.
Hey, it
Now
rained,
instead of
it
cleaning.
rained today. Don't worry about it. Councilman, real council,
How about that?
Tom, that's what I meant, Council Tom. He's a council, Counselor, yeah. And Mr. City Engineer / Chief Kevin, Administrator, nothing. Good job.
My turn?
Oh, no, you go. We'll leave you to last.
Just after Gary.
Just after.
Mr. Burton.
We have to follow the.
Barton.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention, we had a great first responders day a couple weekends ago. Very well attended. Councilman Restuccia did a great job as the MC of that. It was another reminder, much like our Almond Blossom Festival, of really what a special town we have when you see so many in our community turn out to lend their support to those folks who put their lives on the line for us. And yeah, just really appreciated that day. In addition, I just wanted to make quick mention of the strategic planning meeting that we had also a couple of weeks ago. It was, of course, my first opportunity to be a part of that, and just was pretty neat to see an insight into the kind of leadership that we have, both at the staff level and at the council level, providing vision for the things that are most important for this community in both the near term and then in many years ahead. So appreciated that meeting.
Mr. DeBrat.
My turn. Yeah. Ditto to everything Gary had to say there. Nice job, Mike, and your work on the First Responders Day. Great event. Glad to see everybody out there. Kelly, do you have anything coming up this month? Nothing this month.
Vacation.
Okay, good. Love Rippin', April 30th. Big event, opportunity for people to serve the community. Hope to see people out there for that. Other than that, oh. Okay, nice. So what time is that going to be at? 2 o'clock? April 30th, Alpine climbing. Perfect. Hope to see you there. Other than that, thank you to the three of you who are left. Anybody who's listening online, everybody who was here tonight, appreciate you being here and listening and giving input.
Mr. Zuber.
I have two things. One, the clock on Main Street by the library. Has that thing ever told the right time?
Do clocks by
I believe it did briefly. We're in the process right now of getting the actual manufacturer. They have a tech that comes out. The hands are actually scratching the glass on that, and our guys weren't.
Well, I noticed today
comfortable
on one
taking it
side,
apart.
when I drove by, it was 11:12. And on the other side, it was 10:05.
You guys slow.
I had to drive around the block because I wanted to see the other side.
Yeah, we're in the process of getting that fixed.
Appreciate
We've
it.
authorized them, and we're waiting on their schedule.
Okay. And number two, at that workshop that Mr. Barton mentioned, I had asked about getting some information on the amount of the general fund in 2008 and the percentage that went to personnel and then for last year. Just wanted to remind you because I wanted to.
We'll get that out this week.
All right, thank you. That's it.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I just want to thank everybody that did come out to the first responder. It was smaller than it was in the past, but I think people are still a little concerned about getting out, but I think it was well attended. I appreciate everybody coming. Now, lastly, yeah, the Love Rippin', I was asked to attend and I said I would. And then I was told by two people that I had a lot of projects I needed to work on. So I guess it's a work day for me, not just a visiting day. So that's it. You too.
Oh, no.
Thanks for everybody. We'll see ya.
We got a succession.
We have
planning.
successor, right?
Assessor.
Successor meeting.
Where's the, did we have the
You gotta
agenda
put
for
my-
that?
Yeah.
Right here. It's a 2-pager.
Give it to him.
I might need it since I didn't see
I
it.
didn't see it either. Oh,
Okay.
here it is. Okay.
I've already opened the meeting, so with approval of the minutes.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Director Gary Barton,
Present.
Daniel DeGraff,
I am here.
Leo Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Mike Rostuccia.
Present.
Chairman Dean Euchre.
Here. With that, we have any public discussion?
No, you gotta approve the minutes. Oh,
Approve,
public
yeah.
discussion, that's right.
Come
Oh,
on, I'm
yeah.
approval of the minutes.
So move.
Gotta do it.
Second.
Knock my finger
I thought
off.
he moved and he seconded.
Oh, it was there already a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll do it verbally versus through the system.
okay.
How'd you guys hit that thing already? I didn't even.
No, we're not using that. She's
The
gonna-
motion by,
she's gonna
the
call.
motion by Daniel, the second by me.
All right, and then approve
Wait, wait,
it.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the agenda is posted or
So moved.
amended.
Second.
Approval by
All in
favor.
favor.
All in
Yep.
favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Consent calendar,
So move.
US Bank.
Move to approve.
Second,
Yep. Already done. All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion for adjourned.
Bye.
Adjourn.
Yeah.